Hi, this is Gary Hancock, and I want to talk a little bit about a flipped classroom, a quick overview. I've done a lot of research, reading things, looking up on the internet. These are some of the things I've found. Now, you must realize I live in an ivory tower. I have no class. So, what I do is find out what other people have said about it. So, what is flipped learning? And this is a real simple explanation. Traditionally, the instruction takes place at school with the teacher in front of the room. The lesson is taught, and as time allows, students practice and work on applying what they have learned. All too soon, the bell rings. Well, maybe not all too soon, but anyway, the bell eventually rings. Students go home, and their homework is to practice and learn how to apply what they were taught. Now, sometimes questions arise, and without a teacher there, sometimes students' parents struggle and they might be frustrated. And so they might have to come back and say, help me with this the very next day. With flipped learning, the instruction takes place at home. That's the flip part, usually in the form of a short video the teacher makes or is found. Students are able to pause it, go back, and look at things over and over again until they have it. Then they go to school, and school with the teacher there and other students around to help, they practice and learn how to apply it. So that's the basics of a flipped classroom. Boom. This is Katie Gimbar. I like how she talks about her flipped classroom. She's tried to keep it simple, but she's done quite a bit with it.
Why is this called flipping the classroom? The basic answer here is that, the kids are spending the time outside of class watching these lecture videos so that when they come into class, they're being able to apply more information and do collaborative learning. But going through this process of having flipped my classroom, I've learned that this answer is much bigger than that. We're talking about a classroom paradigm shift in efficiency. Prior to this, I was spending 90% of my class time lecturing, dragging the students through information, and 10% of our class time could actually be spent on applying the information. Now, whether my students are watching those lecture videos within class time or outside of class, there's only 10% of that time being allocated to watching and going through the material, and 90% of the class time is spent on application, project-based learning. This is the real shift. This is where flipping really comes in. Instead of just watching the lecture videos for homework, it's an actual shift of what's going on in our classroom, where 90% of our time is now being allocated to application.
So again, why is it called a flipped classroom? Well, we've flipped instruction practice. Instruction takes place at home, practice takes place at school. We're flipping the amount of time spent on lecture and application. Less time is now spent on lecture, more time is spent on application. So, what do we expect you to do as a teacher? Let's look. First of all, as a teacher, you need to find some videos or create them. Another resource to replace the lectures that you can send home with students. And then you must adjust the format of your class. Kids will be coming back knowing the material, or at least seeing the lecture. Now what do you do with them? How do you expand it? How do you take it past that? How do you make videos? Well, teachers can create them on the computer. I will be willing to help you with that, or Rob can. Screencasting apps on your iPad are wonderful. There's YouTube, Khan Academy, iTunes U. Anything on iTunes U is put there and can be reused. TeacherTube, BrainPop, just to name a few. So there's many resources to find those videos. As a students, we're expecting the students to do the homework. That is, go home, watch the video or whichever you've presented to them, and learn what's on there. Take notes, ask questions, and we ask them to come to school prepared to apply the learning. This is going to take some training on our part. Thoughts as I've scoured the internet, read articles. First of all, start small. One flipped lesson a week, a month, a year, a semester, a unit. Start it out small, see how it works, and build from there. Second, creating video takes more time than you think they will. I can vouch for that. Don't be afraid to use other people's stuff. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's good things out there that you can reuse. Not all students will like it. You just turn education upside down. As a student, it's easy to sit through a lecture and play school, pretend you're listening while doing other things. Now they are responsible for it. Have a plan for the class time. Kids are going to come back to class, hopefully knowing that. What are you going to do with that class time now? And lastly, everyone says it is worth it. I'd like you to listen to Katie one more time as she explained why she flipped her classroom. I think there's some good points here.
I've been teaching math for the last 5 years, and this is why I flipped my classroom. This is what my classroom used to look like. I was teaching to the middle group of the class, the students that could follow along with what we were doing, and we were going through the content, while I had a group of higher level students not challenged, bored with the information, ready to move forward. And I had a struggling group of students that were not receiving enough effective remediation. They didn't have the basic content they needed to be working on the content we were currently covering, or they needed more help in order to be successful. This led to a 90% use of class time being spent on delivery and review of content. 90% of the time I was at the front of the classroom lecturing to a group of students, and I wasn't meeting all of their needs. 10% of class time was actually spent on application, which led to, depending on students, to do the application needed to be successful. They had to go home or outside of class and work on applying the concepts that I was giving out in class. This constant battle of not reaching the needs of all students and feeling the need to differentiate for all of my learners allows teachers to feel overwhelmed and ineffective, because we see the need for differentiation, but there's just not enough time for effective differentiation. This called for a drastic change in how we teach. This is where flipping the classroom comes in. Now the students outside of class preload the content. They get the information they're going to need for class. They can pause, rewind, and rewatch the videos as many times as they need to. They can post questions online to their classmates or to the teacher. And it's a self-paced program where they can be remediated by going back and reviewing former topics, or they can work ahead when they've already mastered a concept and are ready to look forward. They get the content here before class, so that when they come into class, my whole classroom has now shifted, where I'm at the center of the class, working between these differentiated groups, focused on different pieces of application. I can now work between each of these groups that are moving at their own pace. This has created a 90% use of class time spent on application of the content, and 10% of class time is spent on delivery of content, when I can answer questions that have been posted or take any other questions that have come up from applying the content. Now in my classroom, all students are engaged and challenged. I have time to work with each group, give them individualized time and instruction as they need, and I can actually work between each of the groups to provide effective differentiation for all my varied groups of learners. My struggling students, my middle group of learners, and I can now extend and expand on my higher level students' prior knowledge and challenge them in the classroom.
Hope this is a good overview of a flipped classroom. I'd love to help you do that. Thank you very much.